Richard is on 6. Hi, Richard.
Oh, hello.
Hello, mate.
Right. I wanted to tell you something, right?
Go on, then.
Now, I don't know if you're going to believe this, and I don't know if everybody else is going to believe this, right?
Uh-huh.
But I think, right, and I'm not exactly 100% sure,
Right.
but I think that I've invented the time machine.
Right.
Right? The reason being is because if you take today's date, right, and then you think about all of the things that you've done in the past, and you think about all the things that you've done in the future.
We haven't done anything in the future, have we?
Well, we have.
How?
Because you can't, well, do you know the Book of Nostradamus?
Yes.
Right. Now, the Book of Nostradamus is something that was written by a guy called Nostradamus, right? Now, he must have knew about all the things from the past.
How? Why? Why must he?
If he wrote, well, he must have been from the future.
Why?
Right?
Why?
Well, if he knows about all the things that are going to happen in the future.
But does he? Because I have read about 24 books telling me what his prophecies actually meant. Because never in one of them does he say, we're going to invent spaceships, where there's going to be Hitler, and everybody says, oh, but Nostradamus knew all of this. No, he didn't. If you read the actual thing that he wrote, it was gobbledygook. And people look at the gobbledygook and say, well, he obviously meant, well, they're just making it up. And I think, could he not have just made it up? Perhaps he was the Richard of his generation.
Well, no. The reason being is because I think, do you know when you think about time machines and time travel?
Uh-huh.
Right? We're only like one thing, like Earth, out of the 10 planets, right?
There's more planets than that.
Yeah, well, in star clusters and stuff like that, we're just like a speck in the universe, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you think about aliens, right, coming down and stuff, they're going to give you things like memories of stuff, right? It's the same as, like, do you know if you've got something like a past life, right? If you've got a past life and you live in that life, you must have been from the past, right? If you've died in a life and you've got something like everlasting life, so you can't die, right? Well, I believe that this is only one part of my life, but I've always been the same person, right?
Aye.
Now, the same person who I was before was all of these people, like, in previous lives, that I am the same person as I am now. The only difference being is, do you know when you've got a soul?
Yeah.
A soul is the thing that your body carries around, and your body's just the vessel, right? So your soul is everlasting, and it gets, like, God turned around and he says, well, on Judgment Day, when you die, you go to heaven, right? Well, your body goes to, like, the crematorium or the cemetery or whatever, and you get buried, right? Now, if you've got all of these experiences about other lives that you've had, and you can remember all of this stuff, because it's really hard to remember. The reason being is because you have to forget, or people like God makes you forget about all of those things because it could have a bad effect on your welfare and your life that you're living now, right? If you believe in stuff like God and stuff. Now, I believe in time travel to the point in which if that's the case and I've got all of these previous lives what I can remember, right? Because when I go into some sort of like trance to the point in which I can regress myself to the point in which all of these things that I can remember have been in previous lives. If I can remember all of these things, I know how all of these things have been working and have been made. Like about things like the Egyptians' pyramids being made, Tutankhamun, and walking about in places like, if you've ever had the same experience and you've been walking down a street, yeah, and you can remember walking down the street, but you know for a fact that you've never been, but you must have been. You must have been done that in the future.
Why? Why couldn't it be just a genetic code that one of your family's been down that street and you've got part of their genetic string and you're picking up a memory that they had? That's got nothing to do with the future.
Well, what I think it is, right, And why I believe I've invented the time machine is because in your life, your blood stream, right, or your DNA code is mapped out in things like you're born, and then when you die, you die. But your spirit always remains intact, right?
But this still has nothing to do with the future. And you talk about time travel,
right.
You can maybe travel back from a memory point of view to people's earlier memories because we've done that on the show, but not future.
Well, right. If you think about, say, today's date, right, the 28th of March, 2006, right? Now you travel forward 100 years. So it's the year 2106.
Right.
Right? And it's the 28th of March. Now, you die then, right? And you go back in time. So time isn't a constant. Do you know what I mean? Because stuff like, if you've got all of those things that you can remember in the past, well, if you've got all of these things that you can do, right, which you can, like, take people back to their previous lives.
Yeah.
Now, if you take somebody like Nostradamus as an example, right, and he took, like you, when you take somebody back to the previous life.
Did he do that? Where does it say? I've read loads of books. I've never seen that.
Well, if you actually met somebody like, and it was Nostradamus who you met, and you went back into their life, what they had, and it was Nostradamus, you could actually take them back to when they were Nostradamus, couldn't you? Do you know what I mean?
Chances of doing that. Everybody that listens to regressions, and a lot of people have said, oh, in regressions, everybody always goes back to be somebody famous. No, they don't. I have regressed hundreds of people, and I've never taken one back who was famous.
That's the thing, you see.
So the chances of you getting Nostradamus is pretty slim, I would imagine.
Well, the thing is, right, in our time now, with all of this stuff like being able to store vast amounts of information on things like discs and hard disk drives and all of that other stuff, like technology.
Right.
We can actually do all of these things like leap forward and leap back.
But you see, there's never been any proof that we can leap forward.
Well, there's things like
we can't go back in time either. We've got no. I mean, you talk about regressing to previous life. You're then researching past memory. You're not going back in time. You're just getting past memories from days gone by. Now, the difference in regression and taking people back in time, if I said to you, do you remember the first birthday party you ever had with your family? You open a bit of your head and you say, oh yeah, I remember that. There was a cake. I was 7. All my friends were there. There were balloons. You've got a memory for that. We're just doing exactly the same thing. Just we're doing it from before they were born. But we're not time traveling.
Well,
we're just accessing a memory from the 2/3 of the brain that nobody knows what's there. It's a huge storage facility.
Well, that's not exactly the case, right? The reason being is because robot technology, right, and places like where you store information. Now, you've got someone like Gene Roddenberry. He created the thing, Starship Enterprise, and there was a guy called Lieutenant Commander Data, could go forward and back, and they had all of these theories, like concepts of slingshotting around the sun, right, and going back in time.
Yeah.
And you had like Captain Kirk do it.
And the principles were accurate because I've interviewed Gene Roddenberry,
right,
and so I know exactly what he did. And if I said to him, Gene, you've obviously come from the future because you know all these clever things. He's just studied physics. That's it. It's not a question that he's got this strange intellect from the planet Zob. He's just studied physics. He's interested in science fiction, and he came up with this concept, Star Wars. He's dead now, but he was never from Star Trek. I beg your pardon. But he's not from the future. He's just wrote good stories, and that's what he said. It's not what I'm saying. That's what he said.
Right, but Gene Roddenberry's actually deceased.
Yes, he is.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he actually died. But all of those things, like, where did he get these ideas from? Do you know what I mean? Because you can't just come up with stuff like...
Why?
Well,
J.K. Rowling, where did she get all these ideas from?
Well, why is it that if all of these things... like, you believe that when you die, right?
Yeah.
You can actually... If you go back to a previous life that you've had, or anybody else that you've regressed for a previous life that they've had. Well, everybody's lived before, but they're still the same person because the soul's the same. There might be a different person, like a woman or a man or whatever.
So therefore, what you're saying is, so they're not the same person.
Well, it's eternal and everlasting, isn't it? So you can't.
Well, you're not the same person, are you? If you're a man and then you're a woman, then you're not the same person, are you?
Well, that's what I mean. But you've got all of these things like ghosts and that, right? Which are like souls that float about in things like limbo, because they've either committed suicide or they've died in an accident.
Who knows why? Who knows why?
Or whatever. Well, if all of those people are alive, that aren't actually, they're just here. Do you know, like astral planes, completely like, it's all that stuff that will have to interlink. Do you know what I mean?
Richard, we can do a little bit of good. Somebody's just phoned in and said they'll give £50 for kids if I do this. I've just cut him off. 0191 488 310. We can make money with this. This could be a weekly event. Thank you, whoever that was. Ka-ching. £50 for kids. And that's money well spent.